Hey, everybody, come on in the room, play the piano if you want to, sit on the couch, get a cup of coffee. It's going to be great. We're having a great conversation today. We have an amazing guest. There she is right there.
Hello.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
My goodness.
I know you're running.
Thanks so much for being patient. I did not expect to be cutting it so close, but here I am.
No worries. You're all good. Take a breath, and I'm going to just welcome the people into the show. Wherever they're streaming in from. So I'm going to go to the one shot right here and just talk real quick and just catch your breath, and we'll get rocking and rolling. So welcome everybody to Hurdlers of Adversity, Inspirers and Maximizers of Pivotal Moments. I have a fantastic guest that I have for you. We just saw her as she just ran into the studio today. But like I said, play the piano, sit down, get on the couch, do what you need to do. Because we want to hear from you today, and we also want to hear from our guests. So this show is really about how we introduce you to people who have overcome tremendous odds and are now giving back to others. You know, it's conversations with inspirers and maximizers of these pivotal moments. And I'm your host, John Register, and I'm so excited to be with you as I'm an international keynote speaker, a change mindset warrior. And I just work with successful business leaders to help them hurdle adversity, amputate fear, and embrace a new normal mindset. Oh my gosh, we have Germany is on. Guten Abend, I think, is for Axel Feist. I think so, my friend. Guten Abend. Wie geht's es Ihnen? I hope you're doing well. From Holstenbach, Germany. Thank you. I appreciate it for you being on this evening. Axel, we helped build a program over in Germany, someplace. I can't remember where it was. And then we have Barbara comes on. Oh no, not the year's been awful. We got to change that around. And then we have Tracy's on now. Thank University of Arkansas, go Pigs. Thank you so much for being on as well. So we got a lot of folks that are jumping in. Tell your friends, because we got a great show. Tracy, you're really going to like this. I think anybody that's in transition is going to love this show for real. So before we get started, we're kind of letting other people get in the room. Like I said, play the piano, have some coffee, sit on the couch. We're going to have a great conversation today. But this week has been kind of crazy mad for me, right? So had a presentation at the end of last week with Kenneth Cole. And I didn't even know anything about, not that I didn't know about Kenneth Cole, but I had heard about him on Guy Raz's show, his podcast, amazing podcast, How I Built This. So it's craziness to talk to him and his team last week on hurdling adversity, amputating fear, and embracing a new normal mindset. Then we also were talking to Prudential. That was like yesterday. So we were talking some things on their success programs and how they were moving forward. And then National Structured Settlements. That was this morning. So it was fantastic. Then I have a new person on the team. She's just killing it. Patrice, I got to shout her out. Oh my gosh, I'm like being launched off this runway for public relations. And so we got on KATU TV. We're in Spokane, Washington. We got deals with that. Every Monday, the first Monday of every month, we're on in Spokane, Washington, KATU TV. So we're in the afternoon live show for that. And I just signed a deal for a radio show. That's like a live radio show. We're not live; it's going to be taped, but you know what I mean. So that airs on 8:00 on Saturday mornings, called The Tactical Advantage. So we're going to be talking about that for the Southeastern community in Colorado Springs, but we'll put it on as a podcast. It'll be on my website. So do go and check out www.johnregister.com. We will have that up as a separate page for all the media that's happening right now. So thank you. Barbara says, I'm on it. Yes, you are on it. You are on it, Barbara. 100% you're on it, because this show is all about uplift. It's all about uplifting us into a new level, new mindset. And we are going to elevate and celebrate one another. So today, we have Dr. Jill Biden in visiting Fort Carson, and near and dear to my heart, because she was one of the ones that helped me build the Paralympic Military Sport Program. And we at the Warrior Games that turned into Prince of Harry's Invictus Games, we met at the British Embassy. I love just seeing how she is visiting military spouses now, and continues to do that as she has been doing like the entire career for 30 plus years, right? So it's really great to just see the consistency of people. The second thing is we have May 7th is Military Spouse Appreciation Day. So I'm going to be tuned in for, I'm going to do a video for why that's so important to me and our family structure when I deployed to Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and my wife Alice had to kind of take over the household during that time. We co-manage it, but she had to do it by herself when I was gone. So I want to talk about that and what that means for military spouses, men or women who are non-deployed and their spouse actually goes to deployment. And this is Military Appreciation Month. So always think of veteran and reach out to those vets who usually do not show up on television commercials. So if you're not familiar with me, I identify as a person who had a career-ending injury. So it's going to be great to talk about this today on our show with our amazing guest experts for this conversation. So at 5'29", I was one of the world's fastest hurdlers, and I was also on my way to officer candidate school, as well as the Olympic Games in 1996. I misstepped a hurdle. I dislocated my knee. I severed the artery behind the kneecap, and then 7 days later, I became an amputee. And I was thrust into this world of disability and in transition. From there, my wife, she just kind of saw me going down this downward spiral. And she says to me, "You know what, John, we're going to get through this together. This is just our new normal." And as she said those words and spoke those words, she elevated me as well. And that's why we elevate others on the show to embrace a new normal mindset, which is kind of like the Olympic motto of Citius, Altius, Fortius, swifter, higher, stronger, where we see those words are not written in the superlative of the word. It's not swiftest, highest, or strongest, but they're with this the ER stem ending, which means we can be the swiftest today and swifter tomorrow. So everything that you can do, if you're being great today, be greater tomorrow. And so that's where we're talking. Even Barbara, right? As you're working on we can work on it today, and we can work on it even more tomorrow. So that's what we have. We always elevate in that space. And I did that. Swam after 27 months of learning how to swim and swim for physical therapy. I made the Paralympic swim team, and then saw athletes running and jumping on artificial legs. And I had to get one of those made for running. And I won the silver medal in Sydney, Australia. It's around here someplace. I had it out for something else. Oh, here it is. It's won the silver medal in Sydney, Australia, becoming one of 2 athletes in the world to jump over 17 and a half feet without a leg or a knee. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the silver medal, as you can see dangling there. You can see through it because we have the green screen on the background. That's not my house. I want to introduce you now to, if you put in where you're from. I know we got one in from Germany, from Warndorf, Sism. Yeah, that's right, Warndorf and Sism. And we went out there for in 2013. Oh my gosh, it's been that long, Axel. So don't make me old, man. So put in where you're from. I want to see where everybody's is listening into the show from today, and we will just shout you out as always. And Axel says Warndorf, which is a great town. It was amazing. It's a horse breeding town. It's been fantastic. And Barbara Heller says, on it. Absolutely. Okay. So let's get into meeting our guest for the week, because we had some great conversations that have been happening. She has dedicated her life to, in her career now, to helping athletes understand their full potential. And she works to provide athletes with resources and a community to help them succeed in all aspects of their lives. Her focus on the athlete as an individual rather than a cog in the sports industry machine, oh my gosh, talk about that for ages, has helped her create unique opportunities and impact the sports space. She is passionate about educating athletes and nonprofits on the best ways to work together to create social impact. We see athletes doing this right now, trying to do social good and use their voice and their platform to elevate their experiences to their fan base. And she aims to ensure that the projects athletes take on in the community are sustainable and truly, truly impactful. Please welcome the founder of Tackle What's Next, the baller shot caller, the queen of the next, Danielle Berman.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said yes, and you're on, and you ran for your meeting, you got here. So
Yes,
just
I'm
thank
here.
you for being on. So, tell us a little bit about Tackle What's Next. What is it, and kind of how did it come into being?
Absolutely. Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head for me. I think the biggest thing that I saw working in sports is there was a disconnect between how we value athletes on the field and how we value what they do off of it. That cog in the industry machine thing that you talked about really resonated with me, that we treat athletes as they're like replaceable. We just wait for the next person that's gonna, kind of come through and shine. And that person that's given their time, their effort, their talent is now done. Their life is now officially, they're finished. Their value is no longer there. And I think that the story behind Tackle What's Next was, I thought, these are some of the most driven, dedicated, motivated people on earth. They've achieved this amazing thing, right? All the Paralympians, Olympians, pro athletes, college athletes, they have taken this one goal and achieved it, right? Even if they didn't win the championship, like, they've made it to this level. It takes so much dedication. Why are we letting those people then just kind of drift off into the abyss? We should be pushing them to do something else amazing, right? If we could have this group of people that went from using those skills in sports to using those skills to fix big problems in the world or to achieve amazing things in different industries, imagine how much better the world could be. And so that was really the kind of genesis behind it. Was I think sports and athletes have such a big opportunity to make change in the world. And I thought, we just need to give them the tools that they can do it. They don't need someone to do it for them. They just need to be empowered to go do it. And so that's really where it came from. I was like, well, we can just have conversations and share what resources are out there, or maybe what needs to be put out there to help them go achieve their next thing, because there's always going to be a next thing.
Right. So were you were you an athlete? Did you? I mean.
Not a good one, anyway.
No. Athlete's an athlete.
Yeah, I played in high school. Yeah, true. But I definitely didn't play at a competitive level. Sport for me was fun. I had friends that played sport. It was like more of a social thing for me. But I definitely knew I wasn't going to be playing at a high level. I played a little bit of softball, volleyball. I'm from Baltimore, so we played a lot of lacrosse, but I was not good. Anyone that knew me would probably be like, well, she had fun. She had fun. That'd be what they say. And I did have fun.
I don't want to hear that.
But I definitely saw this. I think I still, even in that sense, saw the team and the value and kind of the dedication that sport takes a lot. And that's kind of why I was like, I don't care enough about sports, and achieving that high level to put all this work in. Because I had friends that they were in high school playing high school sports, traveling every weekend to play in tournaments and working out every day for like 2 or 3 hours. And I was like, that's not for me. But I did get to see kind of the time that goes into, even at, a high school level, the dedication that you have to put in to be great as an athlete.
I don't think people realize that. And we had another one come in. We got Lynn Keir, who's always on the show. So thanks, Lynn, for coming in. She says hello to John and Danielle from sunny Charlotte. Last time you came in, he said it was rainy Charlotte. So I'm glad that you got some sunshine out there. We're having a fantastic conversation. I was also on the East Coast, and I saw a huge difference. And just kind of talking about the commitment level of student athletes, and parents. Parents more committed than their kids are sometimes.
Yeah.
And just thought, this one track of, this is the sport. I'm 8 years old, and that's what's going to be my sport. I pick one sport. Talk about that, from that dedication of what you've seen when a child does start that young and comes up to a transition in life. And they're trying to either do it A, before their parents want them to do it, or B, they're just kind of burned out on the sport and don't really want to go further with it.
100%. I think this kind of culture of youth sports and specializing in sport at a young age, kind of saying like, I'm 10 and I'm going to be a basketball player and I'm only going to play basketball. Not only is it physically harmful, right? It can be really damaging to your growth as a kid, but emotionally it can be really unhealthy, because you're only identifying with one piece of yourself. And that's where the burnout comes in. If you've been only in basketball for 10 years, by the time you're in college, you're going to want to do something else, especially if it is that parent that's been pushing you and putting the pressure on. I think a lot of times we look at sports as this amazing thing and we say, oh my goodness, like, you're so good. You should be playing professionally. Like, you should go into this scouting program, or you should do this. Nobody ever stops to go, do you want to do that? Is that something you're interested in? Do you enjoy playing sports that much? And again, the time and the effort that you need to put in from a young age is a little overwhelming. And if that's all you know, especially when things start to, end, or you start to get frustrated, you don't have a lot of other outlets. You don't have a lot of other places to turn to. So it can be really unhealthy. I think a lot of it's up here, right? It's mental. You can physically do a lot of things and you can push your body to the limit. But if you're not in it up here, there's no there's no physical, ability that's going to be able to overcome your mental hang up or say, I just don't want to do this. I'm done. So we see it a lot. It's unfortunate. But yeah, it's certainly not a healthy thing to do, to be pushing people into sport, and more so just to be telling people that's their value, is their sports talent, because it's not. It's something they're really good at, don't get me wrong, and there is a value to that if they can make it, but it's not who they are. They have other qualities of themselves, and that's one thing we always like to stress is like, you're not a soccer player. You're someone who just happens to be a very talented at soccer. Like, it's not who you are. You shouldn't be introducing yourself as, hi, I'm a soccer player. Like, that just immediately shows people like that's who you are. There's nothing else about you. So it does contribute to burnout so much, especially for young kids. They're caught up in it and they get excited. And then especially if it doesn't happen, if you don't make it, then what do you do?
Well, I think we'll get into that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Danielle Berman, and she is the founder, the CEO, Graham Pumbaa is of Tackle What's Next. And if you've been enjoying this conversation, please shout her out, put her, the @sign for LinkedIn, and just say one thing that you've learned from her right now. We're going to get into some other stuff, but one thing that you may have learned about the transition and maybe in the parenting area of how kids can burn out from, you start at 5-6 years of age, and then people are wondering why they don't want to do the sport when they're 18, because they've done one sport and that's it. So so make sure your kids are just doing, if you're out there, parents, spread them out, they'll be fine, and they're more likely to choose on their own what they desire to do than anything else.
Exactly.
I learned that pretty fast with my own kids coming up, just let them play whatever. I don't know if it was because I went to a high level in track and field, or if it just, I just didn't care. I just wanted them to have fun, right? That was the biggest thing around it. So Tracy says, so true. We are struggling with this with our kids. Yeah, and you're in Arkansas, and then that's another one of those states, football or baseball, right? And Arkansas, the women's softball team just won, I think either this national championship, they just won something. So it's a real deal, and you get pressured into doing it. So let's talk a little bit about in the Tackle What's Next. I've been fascinated during COVID by people that just have pressed on the gas, and you are one that I've watched because I saw you started to build this, I guess maybe in 2019, I want to say, maybe 18 to 2019, and then COVID hits, and you're still going and still pushing. So talk a little bit about your growth and the challenges that COVID presented to you in the growth of Tackle What's Next.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on with when we kind of got a lot of this started. And like I said, back in 2019, the idea was like, let's build community. Let's do these in-person events where we can connect athletes with others going through similar challenges around moving on from sport. Bring business folks in, bring in companies that maybe want to hire them or want to just like understand the challenges and how we can support. And that was fantastic. We had a couple really great events. And of course, then 2020 came in and we all know what happened there. And it was a challenge. Honestly, we couldn't do in-person events, obviously, for obvious reasons. And so the question I had to ask was, the vehicle change, but the impact we want to make needs to stay the same. So, I think the idea that I had to sit with, which of course a lot of people had this, I guess blessing in disguise, where sometimes you were just sitting and waiting for things because things got canceled. So I was able to use a little bit of that extra time to really go, okay, I still want the impact to be to help athletes transition successfully. I still want them to find purpose in life after sports. We can't do that through in-person events. how are we going to do that? How can we still do storytelling? How can we still share best practices or kind of build a community? And the immediate answer was, let's just make all of our events virtual. Let's have the same conversations that we would have in person on a virtual platform. And to your point, we did press on the gas because the one thing that I could tell was that there was such a need for content around this, because so many athletes in the world were experiencing this loss of sport. They couldn't go play, they couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't play in their games. And so we saw this need for resources and things to watch and consume. And they had this pause too, a lot of athletes. And so we took advantage of that pause to say, hey, totally understandable if this is such a tough time. Again, not to tell you what to do, but maybe start to think about, this is like a preview of what life after sports could be like. For many of you, you'll play for a while, but this is a little preview. So like, wake up and think about, okay, who am I outside of sports? What do I want to do? And so I think the motivation for me was really like, how do we continue to make the same impact, but the vehicle is different? And so it turned into those virtual events. We did some summits. We did some live streams. We're still doing those. We've done conversations like this with you and other folks that, you know, are sharing their stories of what sport taught them and how they're translating that into what they do now. And my big thing is, storytelling is so important, and things like what you're doing here are really important because people learn best through stories, right? They learn best from hearing someone's conversation or journey and taking those life lessons and applying them in their own lives. And athletes learn from other athletes best. So why would I come on and say, here's what you need to do, from me, who never experienced high-level college or professional sports or Olympic sports? I'm saying, here's some things that I think will be helpful, and here's some folks that applied these things and were successful, or vice versa, who wish they would have, but here's what they did, right? And it's that ability to just come together around a shared issue and say, how do we solve it? What works, what doesn't? But it was a challenge, and I think the idea for me was just to be like, keep that impact in front of me and say, does this work to solve that problem? Does this work to make this impact? Can we do this? If it doesn't, get rid of it. And so we also got rid of a lot of things that we were planning because we were like, one, we can't do some of it, but two, you know what? It really doesn't fit into what impact we're trying to make. So let's cut it. And COVID gave us a great sense to like reset and look and go, okay, we're not doing that, but we're going to do this now. So we were able to really take that time.
I really like how you said, and I wrote down, whenever you see me looking down, I'm kind of writing some notes here. And that is, the vehicle changed, the impact remained the same, right? That what we want to make the impact. And I think that's what I was always thinking about, always leaning in to whether or not that somebody could actually hire a paycheck for me or not. I still want to make that impact because I knew this was a time. If I'm going to call myself an inspirational speaker / motivational speaker, I don't call myself a motivational speaker, I call myself inspirational, then this is the time I should be inspiring, right?
Exactly.
So, no matter what, that should be my call. If I'm a quote unquote motivational speaker, I should be motivating during these times because it's really challenging. So I think, that's exactly right. You lean into what your gifting is when the kind of moment gets hard. So we're talking with Danielle Berman. She is the CEO of Tackle What's Next. And if you've been enjoying this conversation, once again, shout her out in the box wherever you're listening from, for YouTube or on the Facebook group or on the Facebook page or in LinkedIn. So those were the places that we're at. I think, we have YouTube as well. So make sure you're shouting her out and putting in what you've learned there. If you have a question for Danielle, also put that in the chat box, and I'm monitoring it over here. So if you have a question that you have an athlete that's out there and you want to ask a specific question for your athlete, or that you are an athlete and looking for your transition, we would love your comments on that in the time we have left. All right. So, and when I look at the Tackle What's Next model, I also look at what athletes kind of resist. So in COVID, you said that they got a snapshot of what may be next. My whole career, my whole season's done.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball's done, football's done, soccer's done, lacrosse is done, swimming's done, right? We're not out there doing that. And so I'm at home and I'm trying to figure out as an athlete, what's next on my plate? How do I get back in my sport when my sport come back, if it does come back? And what do I do with my time now? How are you helping athletes through that moment?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's really individualized, which I think is really important to me because everyone has different priorities. Everyone has a different situation that they're going through, right? We're talking about kind of a shared challenge, but I think where we really want to make sure that effort is put towards that person's individual need. So we don't really have something that's like, here's your checklist, just work down this list and you'll be good to go. Because in my mind, one, I might not do it if someone's just like, here's the checklist, like just work down it. But I think, it's really about like, okay, John, here's what's going on, right? Here's what the situation you're in. Where do you want to go? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what do you actually want to do? Have you thought about like, what would you do next? Now you're sitting at home, you're kind of figuring it out. Do you have any idea, or do you have something specific in your mind that you want to try or you want to get experience in? And that's really, for some people, the first time they may have ever been asked, like, what do you want to do? Like, what is that next step for you? Because to be honest, there's a lot of people telling them what they should do, right? Oh, you should just be a commentator. Oh, you should go into finance. Oh, you should go into sales. You should do this. You should be a speaker. And that's great, right? All of those options are fantastic, unless you don't want to do them. Right. So I think one of the things I really want to make sure the athletes we work with have a sense of themselves in the process, that this is their process. They have to put the effort in, just like with their sport. I can't want it more than you do. So if you don't want it, right, I can't make it happen for you. Exactly. So that's really the big thing. I think we really want them to have space to sort out what do they want to do. That could take 2 years to figure out. They might try a bunch of things and say, I didn't like any of these, but then they find something. And I think that like the stereotype or the kind of misconception, I guess is a better word, is that it's going to happen quick. You're going to figure it out. It's like you need to go fast. And as any of us in any situation, athlete or not, that have ever gone through transition, it is not a one-day experience, right? It is a multi-day, year, could be decade-long experience of transition. And you're never done. I think that's the interpretation, is like one day you're going to be done. You're going to be done transitioning. And that's just not how life works. So we really try to make the process more continual, where it's like, let's just keep working on you, what you want to achieve. It could change, it could shift. Maybe you have a kid, maybe you have a family now. Maybe you have to take a job that's not your dream job just to get things going. But I think that is really the key, is like, they got to know what they want to do and they got to figure that out. But then at the same time, they have to want to go out and do that thing. And I think that's a bigger challenge sometimes than actually figuring out what you want to do, is figuring out the time and the effort to actually go do it.
I think you're exactly right. Thank you for that. That's a brilliant answer. And we have Tracy on, and Tracy has a question. And so she says her husband's a coach. And the pressure is really on them, I guess, on them being the young athlete, very often, right? It's really on them. How do you control that when the pressure's on? How do you control it? And we have Dino's on, my friend Dino. So, hey, Dino, what's going on? He's my buddy from All Army Track and Field.
I love it. Well, it's a really good question, Tracy. And I think there is a lot of pressure. Sports is a high pressure environment. And I think that I'm again, like you said, John, assuming the pressure we're talking about is on these young athletes. I mean, there is a lot of pressure. And I think, again, we need to give athletes the space to express, your kids. Yeah, I think you need to give them the chance to do exactly what I just said. Have that chance to get their emotions heard. I think a lot of times we go back to thinking like it's all tough love, get up, keep moving, gotta go. But you also need to have that experience to like check in with yourself. And especially for you, Tracy, to be checking in with your kids, to be like, let's talk about it. And if it wasn't good, like, let's just have an honest conversation. Like, are you enjoying it? Is it fun? Like, because at the end of the day, as much as we want to be successful in what we do, if it's not enjoyable, then maybe it's not the right thing. And so I think the way to alleviate some of the pressure is to not put more pressure on your kids from you being like, hey, like, you should have listened to this person, or you should have done this. Just let the coach be that person and your emotional support. You're like, hey, do you want to talk about it? No? Okay. We'll come back to it when you're ready. Come find me. And I think, honestly, especially if you have, I don't know how old your kids are, but if your kids are in that stage where like they want to process that, like, let them process it. Let you be that person that they can come to, because they're not going to go to their coach, right? They're not going to go to their coach and say, it really hurt my feelings when you yelled at me for dropping that pass the other day. But they could come to you and tell you that. And you could say, yeah, I could see why that would hurt your feelings. I could see why you'd be upset by that. And that's totally normal that you'd be upset. And you know what? You're going to do better. It's going to be fine. It's not a big deal. You're going to do the work. You're going to get better. I think having that person that they could come to, that's not going to be like, yeah, you should have done, I don't know what you were thinking. Like, how dare you drop that pass, and, just keep going, listen to your coach. But to just listen, I think kids don't enough, especially athletes, have that person that's just there to listen, not to give advice, not to fix the problem, but just to sit there and go, I completely understand what you're saying. And that's it. Then they can go back to practice and, they have that space with you to process when they're ready. So, I mean, it obviously depends on your kids, but I think that's so helpful. And I don't think enough young athletes get that sense of process and get the ability to just talk about what they're feeling. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Tracy, thank you for that question. I'm looking down again because I got notes. I'm learning too.
I love it.
The first one is the pass dropped. So that is always, people think that, or they react in the way when a bad play is made, that the athlete actually wanted to make that bad play. Right. So, I wanted to drop that pass, Mom, Dad. I didn't want to catch the ball. I didn't want to hit. I wanted to strike out. No, that kid wants a home run every time. They want to be the hero. They want to catch the ball in the end zone. And so then if we come in, as hovering parent and say, why'd you drop the ball? Oh my gosh, hit you right in the hands. Yeah, they know that already.
Yes.
There's a great coach. I don't want to botch his name, Adam Kevorks, and he's the women's water polo coach, and fantastic. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to make a team. I won't go into the whole story, but he wanted to make a team that could operate independent of himself being as a coach. So he does a lot of activities, exercises to make sure that if his voice can't be heard from the sideline, that the ladies in the water know what to do. Because every time he sees something, he's always microseconds behind the action of the play, was in the mind of that athlete who was throwing the ball, passing the ball, trying to shoot on goal, or trying to stop the block, right? We're always seeing it from the past perspective of the decision that was made. So that's kind of one thing. The second thing is my daughter, right? I love her to death, but she's like, I love her to life. One of the things that she was like you, Danielle, like a socialite. She liked track and field because of the social thing. And I said, whenever the time comes that you want me to coach you, right, and you want to go for something more, let me know. So I could sit on the sidelines, cheer, applaud the coach, whatever. And then there came a time when she said, "Yeah, Dad, I want to try to get a little better at this." I said, "Okay, well, let's go down, flip the hat from Dad to coach." Now we're going to do. Now we're and then we get home. I get off the track, flip the hat back to Dad hat. But I said, if we're going to be working this track, we're going to do the work. If you say you want this goal, that's here, right? So that's but it's her choice, not my choice, right? And then I could be Dad in the stands with Mom, just kind of chill. Oh, it's great, nice play, let's go team. Okay, yeah. We lost 80-30, right? So and I can teach lessons from that. I can say, when they get off the playing field, they say we should have won that game. I can say, well, did you win the game? And they say, no, we lost the game. Well, then should you have won the game? What does that say about the other team? So we can have all these other conversations that take us outside of the sport. So this is great. We're talking with Danielle Berman, who's the CEO, executive Grand Pumbais of Tackle What's Next. My friend Dino Napier is on. Dino and I ran track with the United States Army. He's an LSU grad. We won't hold it against him. So he's out there. I won't say where he is because he might have to kill me. So I don't want to tell where he is in life. But he was there actually on the day I had my accident, cradling me, my head, and had his head right on my head. So one of my dear friends that was there on the day. So I got this flash round thing we're gonna play real quick.
Yay.
You're not ready for it, but you're ready.
It's okay.
It's really easy questions. And then you get to ask me, I'm going to ask you 6 questions, and you get to ask me 6 questions as well. I'm trying to pull it up right now for the questions I want to ask you, and I'm trying to look for here it is over here. So here's the first. The first question is this: what is your favorite or most used quote when you talk?
That's such a good question. I think the most used quote when I talk about anything in general. Anything. I get told I use this a lot, so I guess I'll say it. When I'm talking about different things going on, I always say like, all right, we all have our marching orders. And that's a quote that people repeat back to me that apparently I say all the time. So I'm a marching orders person.
Marching orders, that's a military term.
There you go.
All right. So last city you visited before the pandemic?
Actually, Miami was the last city I was in.
Miami. Okay.
Yes.
And then, favorite movie munchie candy?
Oh, that's a great one. Raisinets.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I like the Raisinets too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going for something else there though, but that's cool. We can still be friends. I like that. I just wish people would just shut up about what?
That's a really good question. I probably have multiple answers here, but I think the biggest one I would say is definitely the trying to think about how to do it. These NFTs, is that what they're called? The things that people are buying, and they're like pictures of pictures, like online. They're like blockchain. I don't know what it is, but I hear NFTs maybe. I don't know.
I guess I don't know what that is.
I don't know. All I know is people.
Not need Lynn to come in and help us out on that one.
Yeah, maybe. All I know is I hear about it all the time, and I'm just like, okay. I think it's like a picture. You're like buying a picture of a digital image of a picture or something. It's like a digital art certification or something. I don't know. All I know is I need to learn more about it because it drives me nuts when I have to like listen or read an article about it. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I need to move on. So it's not a great example, but I feel like right now that's really what I'm like, I don't know what that.
Cool. All right, then what do you tell an 8-year-old who's asking you, so Danielle, what do you do for a living?
I like that. I would tell an 8-year-old, I work with really driven and motivated people, athletes, to help them figure out what they're going to do when they can't play sports anymore.
Awesome. Okay, you can ask me any question you want to do in that round, and I'll try to come up with some answers. Okay.
Well, I want to know, because you said you'd choose something different. What's your favorite movie munchie candy?
So after right before Raisinets, I would do the mint little mint chocolate mints.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Chocolate mints, yeah.
Yep, those are great.
And popcorn, I like popcorn too.
Yeah, me too. I'm popcorn. Like I have it all the time. In fact, I probably should cut it down. Ooh, yeah, that's a good comp. Okay, I could get down with that. That's great. Lynn did give us some notes on the NFTs here. Here we go.
Because see this little book. So I got.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lynn. That's it. Yes, thank you. I definitely get confused by it. It seems like Inception movie style to me. So I'm kind of like, So thank you for that.
Questions, and I'm going to put her question. I'm going to put her statement up.
There you go. Another question that I would like to know what you would tell an 8-year-old that you do. How would you do that?
I help people to accomplish their dreams.
Love it. Okay, I have another question that's not on your list. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, awesome. I want to know, what advice would you give to anyone in transition right now?
That you're always in transition. always take advantage of the moment that you are in. So that's kind of my advice.
I love it. It's true, though. It's true.
Yep. We're always in
okay.
One says Junior Mints. Yeah, Junior Mints and popcorn.
There you go. That's good.
Together.
I like Junior Mints too. That's very good. Yeah, the sweet and the salty. I'm a big fan of that. Okay. John, what's your favorite music right now?
Ooh, you know what I was just humming in the car is Yo-Yo Ma cello concerto. He plays a cello concerto of the Bach suites. So it's kind of famous. It goes da 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 da.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that's what I was just listening to right now.
I very much enjoy working to classical music. It gets me in the zone. It's nice. It's nice to just not have words coming at me. Okay. How many more questions do I have? Let me see.
You can stop there. One more.
Okay, one more. I liked one other that you asked me right at the beginning, and so I'm gonna try and think about what it was. What was the first one you asked me?
The quote.
Yes. I'd like to ask you that one.
I have lots of quotes, but the one that's in my head right now is something I've been thinking about for the last year. Most people know what it is because I put it on all my stuff now. Is when truth outweighs fear, we will commit to a courageous life. When truth outweighs fear, we commit to a courageous life. So that's what I've been sharing with people now. Yeah.
I love that.
So we get up with, so thank you. That's great. I love it. I love doing that. So NFTs, crazy and fabulous. If you can get in on it, definition, a non-fungible token. Okay. Previously referred to as Bitcoin 2.0 is a unit of data stored on a digital ledger called a blockchain. So we got blockchain happening right now. So that's great. This certifies a digital asset to be unique and therefore not interchangeable. NFTs can be used to represent items such as photos, videos, audio, or other types of digital files. All right. So from the finance person that we have on here, we are going to be investing in that. So
there you go. Now I know a little more about it. But yes, that's been.
We're going to keep that on too. So we need to keep that going. Take a screenshot of that one. So
exactly.
We have Lynn, you probably need to come back on the show so we can actually talk about.
There you go. Yeah, we got to get your perspective.
I understand none of it. Me too, as well. I didn't know what she was talking about. National Fun Day or something. I don't know. So I really wanted to, kind of at the short time we have left here, is you made mention in one of your responses that kind of triggered me a little bit for athletes in transition and, asking what I would give as advice for people. And one of the things I've told athletes is really, wherever they are and they're showing up, show up in that space as their full self, not just the athletic side of their self. So example, when athletes may travel internationally, I say, pick up the phone, call the State Department, find out where the embassy is in the place where you're going, or the an American embassy or another location, and call up the ambassador or the staff and say, you're coming in for this event. You would love to come over to the embassy and just hang out or do a presentation for the group, and you'll be surprised at how many people will actually invite you in. And because usually when you're in a country that is trying to learn English, they want to fill that opportunity and build that around you. And after you do it, you get a chance to, write on your resume, LinkedIn profile that you were an ambassador of goodwill for the United States. You became a sports ambassador or a sports envoy, as we call them. So that's showing up in the space where you are. So what's some of your advice around that, Danielle?
Yeah, I think, that's fantastic advice. You hinted on it a little bit earlier, but that, you're always a work in progress. And I think the idea for a lot of athletes is like, I've made it to a high level and now I need to continue to be at a high level. So my advice would be okay with kind of starting from square one again in something else. I always think about this, the amount of hours you put into being a high level athlete, even if it's college, that's high level, right? That's a high level commitment. It is basically a full-time job that you're putting in. You have put so many hours into being amazing at that. whatever you want to do next, you're going to have to use, to your point, that same commitment and show up and put your full self into it, just like you did to be as successful as you were as an athlete. You don't have to, but if you want to be the best professional motivational speaker out there, you're going to have to put that same effort in. And so I think a lot of times we think that we can just slide on over at something else and be just as amazing. You could be good, but to be the best, you got to put that same time in. So be okay starting from the beginning and getting that work experience and trying, like just trying it. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You lose as an athlete a lot. And I think we don't want to fail in life, but failure is not an end all. It's a learning experience. And it's just like losing a game. You got to get back up and you got to go play the next one. So don't be afraid to try. Those would be my two things.
I love that. So that was really good. When you're talking about the, talking to what I call your competitive nature, competitive advantage that you can gain is by going deep in the people that you have studied, right? So as in athletics, I studied my opponent. I wanted to know, what they were doing, and I would watch them, and they were probably watching me as well.
Yeah.
The same thing as a professional speaker. Everybody that's kind of in my lane, there are about 5 people I really watch like a hawk, because I learn from them. And I not that I want to be like them, but I say, oh, that was really good at what she just did there. I see how she wove that story in and connected this point. Then I can kind of try something similar maybe in my presentations to try to get that and elevate my game. And then maybe she's seeing or he's seeing something from me that elevates them as well. So I think that's really important to study your competition to make sure that you can either surpass them or I think I like to call it we're in concert with each other, because in the speaker game, if I have a presentation this year, just an example, next year I'm probably not going to get called for that engagement, but I can put it off to somebody else who's in my little network that I know is a rock star person, and I do that. I try to do that often as well. So everybody, we've been talking with Danielle Berman, the CEO of Tackle What's Next. If you've learned something from Danielle, please put it in the chat box as we get ready to close this show. Any last thoughts on how people can find you or get on the web, where you're located, and how do people get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you again. So you can find us online at tacklewhatsnext.com. We are on social media at Tackle What's Next as well. If you reach out, you're going to get to me and my very small team. So we will see your note. We will respond. We would love to help. But yeah, if you are, working and you notice that maybe an athlete just needs some resources or wants to talk, have a conversation, we are absolutely here for athletes of all sports and circumstance. But yeah, we are really excited just to build community around this. It's certainly a shared challenge and can just be made easier by talking about it and talking about what that challenge is and how we can start to, work against it, make that effort go. So please feel free to reach out to us, reach out to me. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, John, and I always love our conversations. So
I do too. Thank you for coming on and saying yes. I really do appreciate it.
Of course.
Have a wonderful evening. I look forward to always talking with you in the LinkedIn chat or wherever we find ourselves on text messaging.
There you go.
Or Instagram Live or something.
Whatever the platform, right? I love it.
Always in. As Lynn says, I'm in too. So she's tried talking about that coin she's making.
There you go. Yeah.
Bags. Thank you for being on. I want to close the show out, and I'll shoot you a note afterwards. But I really do appreciate you being on and educating our guests today.
Thanks for the opportunity, John. It's a pleasure.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That is the amazing, lovely Danielle Berman, and what an amazing story! And just on the Tackle What's Next. You should send this up. I'll have this kind of packaged up for it and broken down so you can get these in small bites so you can take them back to your kids or your parents or whoever you need to do to show that there is a resource out there for you and thinking about what might be the next transition in your life or in your career. So we didn't even get into the military transition and all the other stuff as well. The next thing we're going to talk about is just kind of real quick as we get the show out. We still have the 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success. That's coming out in paperback. Can't wait for that, as well as a journal to go with it. And these are 10 stories that from me to you, and then you can journal your own stories to have your own way to have the resilience, to strengthen resilience muscle in your life. And then we have, you can join our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups with an S and amputate fear. So we're doing some work in there. Haven't done a lot of work in there recently, but we're going to have another live event that's going to happen. So you want to make sure you're going to be in there so you can get the information on that. We are starting that. Remember, I told you that we got that podcast/radio show that's coming up on what's it called? It's like KPPF radio here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're going to have a great time just talking about what's going on on the Tactical Advantage. What a great name. I should call this the Tactical Advantage too, this show. But remember that when truth outweighs fear, we commit to a courageous life. And one of my other favorite quotes is this: and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom, by Anais Nin. So you are the motivation. You are the inspiration. Inspiration are the catalyst to motivation. Motivation in turn causes actions. Actions lead us to transformational results. And those results, they re-inspire us to allow someone else that's watching the process to catch the vision. So go forth, inspire your world, everybody. We'll talk to you next week on Hurdlers of Adversity, Inspirers and Maximizers of Pivotal Moments. Bye for now.